There's been some decent episodes of the Antifa Guys podcast um, in the last few weeks. I think it's Terry Gibbons, American woman. She was quite good, quite intelligent. Um, Samantha Kuttner, I think her name is. Uh, she, she was quite a nice lady. Had a brief interaction with her on Instagram. She seems like a nice person and sort of fairly solid critiques. Some Antifa people might not like some of her activism. Might be seen to maybe a little bit soft, possibly. She has a few people on social media having a go at her. But she's all right. She's decent, fairly intelligent. The guy they had on last week, Joe Mulhall, not really a fan of him. Bit of a, I don't know. He's attacking Corbyn. He joined in on that, just like the Judas guy. Um, he joined in on that. He sort of wasn't very sympathetic, didn't show any solidarity to Corbyn, but you expect it from these sort of anarchity, sort of Antifa types. Um, yeah, so I didn't think much of him, but the women, two previous women, were pretty good. A lot of interesting stuff there. I did. I was going to mention that, and also something I wanted to talk about for a few weeks: the acknowledgement of country using Aboriginal place names. Not really anything wrong with it. It's not. It's not bad. I'm not going to attack it too much, but there's a sort of a therapeutic element to it. Um, the late great art critic, Australian art critic Robert Hughes, sort of a liberalish sort of politics he had. He made a very brilliant critique in the early 90s in a series of lectures which became the book The Culture of Complaint, in three parts. A brilliant must read. You have to read this book on an American culture wars and the like. Very prescient. I can imagine what he think of Trumpism and uh, a Donald Trump presidency. Oh boy, that would have been interesting to read. He's a brilliant analysis, and he's talking about political correctness as a kind of a therapeutic, a kind of replacement, a therapeutic replacement for actual politics. And I thought about this. Um, the more and more I see of this Aboriginal, the land acknowledgements and the use of the Aboriginal place names, as it's sort of a therapeutic via language rather than actual concrete politics. Because you talk about Gadigal country, and it's usually said it's unceded, and the fact is that it has been ceded. That's the reality. There's no coming back from that, because you can walk out your front door and look down the street, look at all the big homes, and the people, the white people, and the Asians, and various ethnic groups, non-Aboriginal groups living there, and those houses aren't going away anytime soon. So it has been ceded. It's simply nonsensical to talk about this not being ceded. Maybe not in a formal sense, but who speaks for the Aborigines today? Who is their official spokesperson? And you don't see many Aborigines in um, uh, urban settings. In New South Wales here, they live in Walgett and Dubbo and Burke and Wilcannia. Um, you still see a few. And the ones that were here in Sydney, in and around in the inner city in Redfern, Everleigh Street in particular. They were moved out, and they were moved out when it was gentrified. A city was gentrified, Redfern, maybe Marrickville in particular. Um, the people in Everleigh Street, the crime wave that was going on non-stop there, a lot of problems with drugs and all sorts of nonsense going on there. So when the yuppies moved in, the Aborigines were moved out, and they were shunted off back to, like I said, Wilcannia and Burke and the northern rivers, sort of all out of Sydney. Maybe a few in the outer parts of in the Blue Mountains. You don't see many in the city the main part of the city. And so it has been ceded. It's over. It's gone. And it's kind of sort of taunting them a little bit to talk this way about it still being their country, and when it's not, frankly. I think it's just a way for maybe socially progressive so-called people, your sort of green voter, to feel a little bit better about themselves and assuage their guilt a little bit through therapeutics via language, as Robert Hughes spoke about. But it's not a concrete politics. Politics is the art of the possible, and it's getting rid of all these millions of people and their big homes in Sydney and Melbourne, Perth. It's not going to happen. It's simply not going to happen. So it's not it's not genuine political action. It's making certain people feel a little bit better about themselves. And it's nice that they can do that. You can have your little acknowledgements, and they can sit there sort of virtue signaling a little bit. But as a practical point, what does it do? I don't know. That's what I said about those protesters, the climate protesters, the girl who chained herself to the steering wheel. They didn't seem to have any concrete plan. On their website, I couldn't make out, well, what's Anthony Albanese going to do? The Chinese horrible heat wave over there, sort of played down a bit by the media. Just probably the biggest story of the 20th century, 21st century. You live it in the 21st century, pal. The biggest story of the 21st century is that heat wave, 11 weeks, just horrendous. I know a lot of those places got hot, but just so extreme. Played down by the media, probably because this little green energy racket, burning trees, is not going to help. So I don't know. The art of the possible is the nature of politics, and if it's not possible for the Aborigines to reclaim their land in any serious sense, then it's not politics. It's a therapy, and it's not a therapy for Aborigines. It's a therapy mostly for white middle-class people to feel a little bit less guilty about what happened. And that's not really politics. It helps certain people get through the night, but it's not politics. It's not concrete politics, and pretending otherwise doesn't help anyone.